Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stood between two angry groups of aliens in the main trading hall. The tall, green-skinned Vexians were shouting in their clicking language while the human traders shouted back in English. Everyone was mad about something to do with cargo prices and shipping delays. "Listen, both of you," Jake said, holding up his hands. "We can work this out without anyone getting hurt." The trading station was always busy. It floated in space around a big orange planet called Kepler 442b. Ships came and went all day long, bringing aliens from dozens of different worlds to buy and sell things. Jake had been the security chief here for 3 years, and he had learned that most problems could be solved if people just talked instead of fighting. The Vexian leader, a female with bright yellow eyes, clicked her teeth at Jake. "Human prices? Too high. Make no sense. We pay fair price only," Jake nodded. "I understand. Let me talk to the human traders about lowering their prices a bit." Before he could say more, the floor shook under his feet. The lights flickered off and on. Then they flickered again. Jake felt his stomach drop as the artificial gravity seemed to hiccup for a moment. "What was that?" asked one of the human traders. Jake was already reaching for his radio. "Control, this is Morrison. What's happening?" the radio crackled. "Jake, we've got a big problem. Explosion in the eastern wing. The whole section is on fire." Jake's blood went cold. The eastern wing had living quarters and shops. There could be hundreds of people there. He looked around the trading hall. The aliens and humans were all staring at him with worried faces. "Everyone." "Stay calm," Jake said. "Follow the emergency procedures. Go to the nearest evacuation point." But Jake was already running. He grabbed his emergency kit from the security station and sprinted toward the eastern wing. Behind him, he could hear the emergency alarm starting to wail. The sound was awful, like a monster screaming. As he ran through the corridors, Jake could see other people running too. Some were humans, some were aliens. All of them looked scared. The lights kept flickering, and Jake could smell something burning. He reached the entrance to the eastern wing and stopped. The corridor ahead was full of smoke. Orange flames danced on the walls. The heat hit him like a punch in the face. Jake put on his breathing mask and checked his equipment. His thermal scanner showed the temperature was already deadly for most species. Only humans could survive in heat like this for more than a few minutes. Jake took a deep breath and ran into the flames. The smoke was so thick he could barely see. His scanner showed him where the walls were, but everything else was just gray fog. The heat was incredible. Even through his protective gear, Jake felt like he was being cooked alive. He moved deeper into the burning section, checking each room for survivors. Most were empty. The people who lived here had gotten out fast when the explosion happened, but Jake kept looking. He had to make sure everyone was safe. That's when he heard the scream. It was faint, almost lost in the roar of the flames, but Jake heard it. Someone was still alive in this hell. He followed the sound, moving as fast as he could through the smoke and fire. Jake found her in what used to be a small apartment. A big metal beam had fallen from the ceiling and pinned her to the floor. She was conscious but weak. Jake could see she was Valorian, one of the alien species that looked almost human but had pale blue skin and silver hair, but this Valorian was different. Her clothes were expensive, made from materials Jake had never seen before. Her features were more refined than the other Valorians he had met. There was something about her that suggested she was important, maybe even noble. None of that mattered. To Jake, she was hurt and trapped, and he was going to save her. "Hold on," Jake said, kneeling beside her. "I'm going to get you out of here." She looked up at him with large violet eyes. Jake could see pain in them, but also surprise. She seemed amazed that anyone would risk their life for her. You came into the fire," she whispered in accented English. "For me. That's my job," Jake said, but they both knew it was more than that. No job required someone to walk into a death trap like this. Jake grabbed the metal beam and tried to lift. It was heavy, much heavier than it looked. The heat was making him dizzy, and his muscles were starting to cramp. But Jake had something that impressed every alien species he had ever met. Humans just didn't give up. He pulled and strained, using every bit of strength he had. The beam moved a little, then a little more. The Valorian woman tried to help, pushing with her legs, but she was too weak. "What's your name?" Jake asked as he worked. "Sometimes talking helped people stay conscious." "Lyra," she said. "My name is Lyra. I'm Jake Morrison. I'm going to get you out of here, Lyra, I promise." Around them, the fire was getting worse. Jake could hear the metal structure of the station groaning and creaking. Parts of the ceiling were starting to fall. They didn't have much time. Jake changed his grip on the beam and pulled with everything he had. His muscles screamed in protest. His lungs burned even through the breathing mask. But slowly, inch by inch, the beam moved. "Now!" Jake shouted. "Pull yourself out!" Lyra dragged herself free just as Jake's strength gave out. The beam crashed back down, but she was safe. Jake helped her to her feet. She was hurt but could walk. "Can you make it?" Jake asked. "Yes," Lyra said, though Jake could see she was struggling. "I can make it." They started back through the burning corridors. It was even worse now. The fire had spread and parts of the station were collapsing. Jake had to find a new route. When their original path became blocked by fallen debris, Lyra surprised him. Despite her injuries, she kept up with him. She didn't complain or ask to rest. There was a strength in her that Jake respected. "Why did you save me?" she asked as they climbed over a pile of twisted metal. "Because you needed help," Jake said. Simply, "You don't even know me. I could be anyone." Jake looked at her. "Doesn't matter who you are. You're a person, and you were in trouble." Lyra stared at him for a moment, then nodded. "I think I understand now why my people find humans so unexpected." They reached the evacuation zone just as the last rescue ships were preparing to leave. Jake helped Lyra aboard a medical transport, then started to turn away. He had other people to help, other emergencies to handle. "Wait," Lyra said, grabbing his arm. "Thank you, Jake Morrison. I will not forget what you did." Jake smiled. "Just doing my job. Take care of yourself, Lyra." As the medical ship flew away, Jake turned back to help with the firefighting efforts. He had no idea that he had just saved the most important person in the Valorian Empire. He had no idea that his simple act of courage would change the fate of two entire species. All Jake knew was that someone had needed help, and he had been there to give it. That was enough for him. That was the human way. Jake thought his work was done after he got Lyra to the medical ship. He turned back toward the burning station, ready to help fight the fires and rescue more people. But as he walked away, something made him look back at the medical transport. The ship's communication array was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Signals were coming in from everywhere. Jake had never seen so many priority channels active at once. Military frequencies, diplomatic channels, and what looked like royal communication. Protocols were all broadcasting at the same time. "What the hell?" Jake muttered. Inside the medical ship, things were getting strange. The medical team had been treating Lyra like any other injured person. But now they were acting completely different. They were being extra careful, extra polite. One of the doctors was actually bowing to her. Commander Peterson, the ship's captain, came running onto the medical deck. His face was white as a sheet. He looked at Lyra, then at his communication officer, then back at Lyra. "Ma'am," Peterson sighed, his voice shaking. "I just received confirmation of your identity. We are honored to have you aboard our vessel." Lyra was sitting up on the medical bed, looking much better than she had in the flames. Her pale blue skin had more color now, and her silver hair was clean, but her violet eyes were tired. "Thank you, Captain," she said. "I appreciate your help." Peterson turned to his crew. "This is Princess Lyra Vextara, heir to the Valorian throne. She is the daughter of Emperor Vexmore himself." The entire medical team froze. One of the nurses dropped her medical scanner. The doctor who had been treating Lyra's burns looked like he might faint. Jake was close enough to hear this through the ship's open airlock. He stopped walking and stared at the medical transport. Princess? Heir to the throne? He had just saved alien royalty and didn't even know it. "Son of a bitch," Jake whispered. Commander Peterson noticed Jake standing there. "Morrison, get over here, now." Jake walked back to the medical ship, his mind racing. The woman he had pulled from the flames wasn't just any Valorian. She was their princess, the future ruler of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. "Jake," Peterson said when he arrived, "do you understand what you've done?" "I saved someone from a fire," Jake said. "Same thing I would do for anyone," Peterson shook his head. "You saved the heir to the Valorian Empire?" The Valorians control dozens of star systems. They have fleets that could destroy human colonies without breaking a sweat. Jake looked at Lyra. She was watching him with those violet eyes, but she didn't look scary or dangerous. She looked like the same frightened person he had rescued from the flames. "She's still just a person," Jake said. Peterson laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Just a person? Morrison, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into." Over the next few hours, Jake learned just how big a deal this was. News of the princess's rescue spread through the evacuation fleet like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know about the human who had saved Valorian royalty. Jake's radio wouldn't stop buzzing with calls from reporters, military officers, and diplomatic officials. But the real surprise came when Jake learned why Princess Lyra had been on the station in the first place. She hadn't been there as a tourist or for business. She had been there for secret diplomatic meetings. She was trying to improve relations between humans and Valorians, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, the fleet's chief diplomatic officer. "There's been tension between our species for years. Trade disputes, territory disagreements, cultural misunderstandings. Princess Lyra was working to fix all that." Jake frowned. "What kind of tension?" "The kind that could lead to war," Dr. Kim said. "There's a faction in the Valorian Empire that thinks humans are primitive and dangerous. They want to put us in our place, maybe even conquer human space. And the princess? She disagrees with them. She thinks humans and Valorians can work together. She's been fighting against the war faction for years." Jake thought about this. "So someone tried to kill her?" "That's what we think. The explosion wasn't an accident. Someone planted a bomb in the station's eastern wing. They knew she was there." This made Jake angry. He had seen enough war to know that it solved nothing. The idea that someone would try to start a war by killing an innocent person made his blood boil. Who would do something like that? "Probably General Korthvex," Dr. Kim said. "He leads the war faction. He's been pushing for military action against human colonies for months." Jake looked back at the medical ship where Princess Lyra was resting. She had been trying to prevent a war, and someone had tried to kill her for it. But she was alive, and that meant her work could continue. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "Now things get complicated," Dr. Kim said. "The Valorian Empire is going to want to thank you. But they're also going to want to protect you. If the war faction tried to kill the princess, they might try to kill you too." Jake hadn't thought of that. By saving the princess, he had become a target, but he didn't regret what he had done. He would make the same choice again in a heartbeat. Later that evening, Jake was summoned to the command ship of the evacuation fleet. Admiral Brooks, the fleet commander, was waiting for him with a room full of important-looking people. "Morrison," Admiral Brooks said, "this is probably the most important debrief of your career." Jake sat down at the conference table. Around him were military officers, diplomatic officials, and intelligence analysts. They all looked serious. "We need to know everything," Admiral Brooks said. "Every detail about the rescue, every word the princess said, everything you observed." Jake told them the whole story. How he had heard the scream, found Lyra trapped under the beam, and carried her to safety. He described the fire, the collapsing station, and Lyra's surprising strength during their escape. "She could have given up," Jake said. "She was hurt and scared, but she kept going. She's tougher than she looks." One of the diplomatic officers leaned forward. "Did she say anything about why she was on the station?" "No," Jake said. "She just thanked me for saving her. She seemed surprised that I would risk my life for someone I didn't know." "That's typical," said another officer. "Valorian culture is very hierarchical. They're not used to people helping others without expecting something in return." Admiral Brooks nodded. "Which makes what you did even more significant. You've shown them something about human nature that they've never seen before." "What are you? Mean?" You risked everything to save a stranger, Admiral Brooks said. You didn't know she was royalty. You didn't know there would be a reward. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That's not how most species think. Jake shrugged. It's how humans think. Exactly, Admiral Brooks said. And that's why this could change everything between our species. The meeting went on for hours. Jake answered every question they asked. But his mind kept drifting back to Lyra. She had looked so grateful when he saved her, so surprised that someone would care about her safety. When the meeting finally ended, Jake walked back to his quarters. He was tired, but he couldn't sleep. Too much had happened. A few hours ago, he had been breaking up a trade dispute. Now he was at the center of an interstellar incident. His radio buzzed. Jake looked at the display and saw it wasn't encrypted. Message from the medical ship. The message was short. Thank you again for saving me. I hope we can talk soon. There is much I want to tell you about your people and mine. Jake stared at the message for a long time. He had saved one person's life, but apparently he had changed the fate of two entire species. He wasn't. Sure, he was ready for that kind of responsibility, but ready or not, Jake Morrison was about to become the most important human in the galaxy. Jake woke up to his radio screaming at him. The emergency tone made him jump out of bed and grab the device before he was fully awake. Morrison here, he said, his voice rough from sleep. Jake, get to the command ship now, Admiral Brooks' voice crackled through the speaker. We have a situation. Jake looked at the clock. It was 3 a.m, ship time. He had only been asleep for 2 hours. But when the Admiral called, you answered. On my way, Jake said. 20 minutes later. Jake was sitting in the command ship's briefing room. Admiral Brooks was there, along with Dr. Kim and several other officials. They all looked tired and worried. What's the situation? Jake asked. Admiral Brooks activated the main display screen. It showed a tactical map of the local star system. Red dots were moving toward their position. Valorian warships, Admiral Brooks said, 12 of them heading straight for us. Jake felt his stomach drop. Are they coming to attack us? We don't think so, Dr. Kim said. But we're not sure. The lead ship is broadcasting on royal frequencies. They're demanding to speak with Princess Lyra. And with you? Admiral Brooks added, looking at Jake. Jake stared at the screen. 12. Valorian warships was enough firepower to destroy the entire human evacuation fleet. If they wanted a fight, it would be over in minutes. What do they want with me? Jake asked. We're about to find out, Admiral Brooks said. The princess has agreed to a joint communication. You'll be talking to both her and the Valorian fleet. Commander, Jake nodded. He wasn't looking forward to this, but he didn't have a choice. He had become too important to hide. The communication screen flickered to life. On the left side, Jake could see Princess Lyra aboard the medical ship. She looked much better now, dressed in formal Valorian clothing that somehow made her look more regal and important. On the right side was a Valorian male in military uniform. His face was stern and his yellow eyes were cold. Princess Lyra, the military officer said, bowing his head slightly. I am Admiral Zethkar of the Imperial Fleet. His Majesty the Emperor has sent me to ensure your safety. Thank you, Admiral, Lyra said. I am well, thanks to this brave human. She gestured toward Jake. Admiral Zethkar's eyes turned to Jake. The Valorian studied him for a long moment, as if trying to figure out what kind of creature he was looking at. You are Jake Morrison? Zethkar said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir, Jake replied. You saved the life of our princes at great risk to yourself. I did what anyone would do, Jake said. Zethkar's expression changed slightly. Jake thought. He saw surprise in the alien's eyes. No, Zethkar said. Not anyone would do what you did. Few beings in the galaxy would enter such flames to save a stranger. Princess Lyra leaned forward. Admiral, I must tell you something important. The explosion on the station was not an accident. Someone tried to kill me. Jake watched as Zethkar's face hardened. The Valorian's hand moved to his weapon. Who dares attack the royal family? Zethkar demanded. We believe it was General Korthvex. Lyra said, he opposes my efforts to improve relations with humanity. Jake had heard that name before. Dr. Kim had mentioned him as the leader of the war faction. If this is true, Zethkar said, then both you and the human are in danger. General Korthvex has many supporters in the military. He may try to finish what he started. That's why I'm requesting sanctuary, Lyra said, for both myself and Jake Morrison. Jake blinked. Sanctuary? It means protection, Dr. Kim whispered to him. She's asking the fleet to protect both of you. Admiral Zethkar nodded. The Emperor has authorized me to provide full protection for Princess Lyra, but the human ... He paused, looking at Jake again. The human is not our responsibility. He is now, Lyra said firmly. I invoke the law of life debt. Jake Morrison saved my life at great personal risk. By Valorian law, he is now under my protection. Jake saw Admiral Brooks and Dr. Kim exchange glances. They hadn't expected this. Princess, Zethkar said carefully, the law of life debt has not been invoked in over 2 centuries. Are you certain you wish to do this? I am certain, Lyra said. Jake Morrison is now under the protection of the royal family. Any attack on him is an attack on the throne itself. Jake felt like the room was spinning. He had gone from being a simple security guard to being under the protection of alien royalty. His life had become very complicated very quickly. What does this mean? Jake asked. It means, Admiral Zethkar said, that you now have the same protection as the princess herself. It also means that you have certain obligations. What kind of obligations? Princess Lyra answered. It means that when I call upon you, you must come. When I need your help, you must give it. The life debt bonds us together until it is repaid. Jake thought about this. He had saved her life, and now she was saving his. It seemed fair. I can live with that, Jake said. Over the next few hours, Jake learned more about what had happened. The Valorian fleet had been tracking the communication signals from the station explosion. They had intercepted messages between General Korthvex and his supporters confirming that they had planned the attack. Korthvex wants to start a war with humanity, Princess Lyra explained during a private communication. He believes that humans are a threat to Valorian supremacy. He thinks we should conquer your colonies before you become too powerful. And you disagree? Jake asked. I think he's wrong about humans, Lyra said. I've studied your species for years. You have qualities that could benefit the entire galaxy. Like what? Like what you showed me, Lyra said. You risked everything to save a stranger. Most species wouldn't do that. Most species only care about their own survival. Jake shrugged. We're taught to help others. It's just how we're raised. That's exactly what I mean, Lyra said. Your species has something special. Something that could help bring peace to the galaxy, but peace seemed far away. Admiral Zethkar reported that General Korthvex had declared Princess Lyra a traitor to the Valorian Empire. He was gathering support from other military leaders who shared his views about humans. He's planning something, Zethkar said during another briefing. Our intelligence suggests he's preparing for a major military operation. Against the humans? Admiral Brooks asked. Against the princess, Zethkar said. And against Jake Morrison. He sees them as symbols of human-Valorian cooperation. If he can eliminate them, he can prove that such cooperation is impossible. Jake felt a chill. Someone was planning to kill him just because he had saved a life. It didn't make sense to him, but he was beginning to understand that politics rarely made sense. What do we do? Jake asked. We prepare for war? Admiral Zethkar said. General Korthvex has powerful allies. This will not be easy. Princess Lyra looked at Jake. I'm sorry I brought this trouble upon you. If you wish to walk away, I will understand. Jake looked at her for a long moment. She was young, maybe in her 20s in human terms. She was trying to prevent a war between 2 species, and people were trying to kill her for it. She needed help. I'm not walking away, Jake said. You saved my life by protecting me. Now I'm going to help you save both our species. Lyra smiled, and Jake realized that despite everything that had happened, despite all the danger and politics and complications, he had made the right choice. He had saved one person's life, and now he was going to try to save millions more. War for the future of human-Valorian relations was about to begin, and Jake Morrison was right in the middle of it. Jake's life changed completely in the days that followed. He was no longer just a security guard. He was now a symbol of something bigger than himself, and people across the galaxy were watching his every move. The news of his rescue of Princess Lyra had spread through human space like wildfire. Every news channel was running the story. Jake Morrison, the ordinary security chief who had saved alien royalty, some people called him a hero. Others worried that he had gotten humanity into trouble with a powerful alien empire. "You're famous," Admiral Brooks told him during one of their daily briefings. "There are reporters from 50 different planets trying to get interviews with you." Jake sat in the command chair, feeling uncomfortable. He didn't want to be famous. He just wanted to do his job and help people. "I don't want to talk to reporters." Jake said, "You might not have a choice," Dr. Kim said. "The politicians back on Earth are very interested in this situation. They want to use your story to improve relations with the Valorians." Jake frowned. "Use my story how?" "They want you to be an ambassador," Admiral Brooks said. "A symbol of human courage and friendship," Jake laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I'm not an ambassador. I'm a security guard." "You're more than that." "Now," Dr. Kim said, "whether you like it or not, you've become one of the most important humans in the galaxy." But Jake's fame was also making him a target. Admiral Zethkar's intelligence reports were getting more worrying every day. General Korthvex was gathering support from military leaders across the Valorian Empire. He was telling them that Princess Lyra had been corrupted by human influence and that Jake Morrison was a spy sent to manipulate the royal family. "It's ridiculous," Princess Lyra said during one of their private communications. "Anyone who knows you would see that you're not a spy." "But they don't know me," Jake said. "All they know is what Korthvex tells them," Lyra nodded sadly. "Fear makes people believe foolish things. Korthvex is very good at spreading fear." The situation got worse when news came from the Valorian homeworld. Emperor Lexmor, Lyra's father, was sick. He had been ill for months, but now his condition was getting worse. If he died, there would be a struggle for power between Princess Lyra and the military faction led by General Korthvex. "The timing is not an accident," Admiral Zethkar told them. "Korthvex has been waiting for the Emperor to weaken. Now he's making his move." Jake was in the middle of all this political chaos, and he didn't understand most of it. But he understood one thing clearly. If General Korthvex took power, there would be war between humans and Valorians. "What can we do?" Jake asked during a meeting with Princess Lyra and Admiral Zethkar. "We need to get back to the homeworld," Lyra said. "I need to be there when my father dies. If I'm not there to claim the throne, Korthvex will declare himself emperor." "That's very dangerous," Zethkar said. "Korthvex has supporters everywhere. The moment you set foot on the homeworld, you'll be a target." "I know," Lyra said, "but I don't have a choice. It's my duty." Jake looked at both of them. "What about the life debt? If Lyra is in danger, then I'm supposed to help her, right?" Zethkar nodded slowly. "That is correct. The life debt means you are bound to assist the princess when she calls upon you." "Then I'm coming with you," Jake said. Both Valorians stared at him. Lyra looked surprised and worried. "Jake, that's very brave," she said. "But you don't understand what you're offering. The homeworld is not safe for humans right now. Korthvex's supporters see all humans as enemies." "Then I'll just have to change their minds," Jake said. Admiral Zethkar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Change their minds?" "Human, these are military officers who have spent their lives believing that other species are inferior. You cannot simply talk them out of their beliefs." "Maybe not," Jake said, "but I have to try. If Princess Lyra fails to claim the throne, then billions of people on both sides are going to die in a war. I can't just stand by and let that happen." Lyra studied Jake's face for a long moment. "You really mean it, don't you? You're willing to risk your life again for people you've never met." "That's what humans do," Jake said simply. The plan they came up with was dangerous and probably crazy. A small group would travel to the Valorian homeworld on Admiral Zethkar's fastest ship. Princess Lyra would go to the palace to be with her dying father. Jake would go with her as her official protector under the life debt law, Admiral Brooks. Didn't like the plan at all? You're walking into a trap, he told Jake. Korthvex wants you dead. You'll be giving him exactly what he wants. Maybe, Jake said, but if I don't go, Princess Lyra will be facing this alone. I can't let that happen. You barely know her, Admiral Brooks said. Why are you willing to die for her? Jake thought about that question for a long time. Why was he willing to risk everything for an alien princess he had met only a few days ago? Because she's trying to prevent a war, Jake said finally. Because she's willing to risk her own life to save others? Because someone has to stand up for what's right, Dr. Kim nodded. That's very noble, Jake, but noble gestures don't stop bullets. No, Jake said, but sometimes they inspire other people to do the right thing too. The journey to the Valorian homeworld took 3 days. Jake spent most of that time learning about Valorian culture and politics from Princess Lyra. She taught him about the royal court, the military hierarchy, and the complex web of alliances that held the empire together. The key thing to remember, Lyra said, is that Valorians respect strength and honor above all else. If you show weakness, they will see you as prey. What about compassion? Jake asked. Don't they value that? Lyra smiled sadly. Compassion is seen as weakness by many of my people. That's one of the things I hope to change. Jake also learned more about General Korthvex. The Valorian was a war hero who had led successful campaigns against several alien species. He was popular with the military and had the support of many noble families who profited from conquest and war. He's not evil, Lyra explained. He truly believes that war is the only way to keep the empire strong. He thinks that showing mercy to other species makes us vulnerable. And you disagree? I think strength comes from cooperation, not conquest, Lyra said. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. As they approached the Valorian homeworld, Jake could see why the planet was the center of such a powerful empire. It was beautiful with blue oceans and green continents, but it was also heavily defended. Hundreds of warships patrolled the space around the planet, and massive orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons. Impressive, Jake said, looking out the viewport. And dangerous, Admiral Zethkar added. Many of those ships are loyal to Korthvex. We'll be flying through hostile territory. Princess Lyra was quiet as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Jake could see the worry in her violet eyes. She was going home, but home might not be safe. Anymore, whatever happens, Jake told her, we'll face it together, Lyra nodded. Thank you, Jake, for everything. As their ship descended toward the capital city, Jake could see crowds gathering in the streets below. Word of the princess's return had spread quickly. Some of the crowds looked friendly, waving banners with the royal colors. Others looked angry. Shouting and shaking their fists at the sky, the empire was dividing into 2 camps, and Jake Morrison was about to land right in the middle of the most dangerous political crisis in Valorian history. The royal palace was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was massive, built from white stone that seemed to glow in the light of the Valorian sun. Tall spires reached toward the sky, and beautiful gardens surrounded the main building. But Jake noticed something else too. There were soldiers everywhere, and many of them didn't look friendly. Princess Lyra walked beside him as they approached the main entrance. She was dressed in formal royal clothing now, a flowing gown of deep blue that made her look every inch. The princess she was, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders and the worry in her eyes. Remember, she whispered to him, stay close to me. The life debt protects you, but only while you're by my side. Jake nodded. He was wearing his best human clothes, but he still felt out of place among all the alien nobility and military officers who filled the palace corridors. Every eye was on him, and he could hear whispered conversations in the Valorian language. They were escorted to the throne room by a group of royal guards. The room was enormous, with a high ceiling and walls covered in beautiful artwork. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the emperor's throne, but the throne was empty. His Majesty is too ill to receive visitors in the throne room, explained an elderly Valorian in ornate robes. He is resting in his private chambers. Princess Lyra's face fell. Jake could see how much it hurt her to know her father was so sick. I want to see him, she said. Of course, Your Highness, the advisor said. But first there are others who wish to speak with you. Jake felt a chill as General Korthvex entered the throne room. The Valorian was tall and imposing, wearing a military uniform covered in medals and decorations. His yellow eyes were cold as ice, and when he looked at Jake, there was pure hatred in his gaze. Princess Lyra, Korthvex said, bowing slightly. Welcome home. General, Lyra replied. Her voice was formal and careful. I see you brought the human with you, Korthvex said, his voice dripping with contempt. How appropriate! Jake Morrison is here under the protection of the life debt, Lyra said firmly. Any harm that comes to him will be answered by the crown. Korthvex smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Of course, Your Highness, we would never harm a guest of the royal family. Jake didn't believe that for a second. He could see the calculation in the general's eyes, the way he was looking for weaknesses and opportunities. I assume you've come to claim your inheritance, Korthvex continued. But I'm afraid the succession is not as simple as you might think. What do you mean? Lyra asked. The Council of Lords has been meeting while you were away, Korthvex said. There are concerns about your fitness to rule. Your association with humans has raised questions about your loyalty to the Empire. Jake felt his anger rising. This alien was questioning Lyra's loyalty just because she wanted peace instead of war. Princess Lyra is more loyal to the Empire than you are, Jake said before he could stop himself. The throne room went silent. Every Valorian in the room stared at Jake in shock. He had just contradicted a general in front of the royal court. In Valorian culture, that was probably close to treason. Korthvex's eyes narrowed. The human speaks out of turn. Perhaps he should learn some manners. Perhaps you should learn some respect, Jake shot back. Princess Lyra was almost killed trying to improve relations between our species. She's trying to prevent a war that would cost millions of lives. If that's not loyalty, I don't know what is. Korthvex took a step forward, his hand moving to his weapon. You dare lecture me about loyalty, human? You, who have corrupted our princes with your soft ideas about peace and cooperation? I haven't corrupted anyone, Jake said. Princess Lyra makes her own decisions. She's smart enough to see that war isn't the answer. War is the only answer, Korthvex shouted. It is how the strong survive and the weak are eliminated. Your species is weak, and you will be eliminated. My species saved your princess, Jake said calmly. If we're so weak, how did I carry her out of those flames when none of your people could? That hit home. Jake could see several Valorian officers exchanging glances. They remembered the reports of the rescue, how Jake had walked into deadly fire to save someone he didn't even know. Korthvex's face turned dark with rage. You think one act of foolishness makes you special? You think risking your life for a stranger proves something? It proves that humans care about more than just themselves, Jake said. It proves that we're willing to sacrifice for others, even people we've never met. That's not weakness, that's strength. It's stupidity, Korthvex snarled. No, said a new voice from the entrance to the throne room. It's honor. Everyone turned to see Admiral Zethkar entering with a group of naval officers. They marched in formation, their boots clicking on the marble floor. Admiral, Korthvex said, his voice suspicious. What brings you here? The same thing that brings everyone here, Zethkar said. The future of the Empire. Jake watched as more Valorians entered the throne room. Some were military officers. Others were nobles and government officials. The room was filling up fast, and Jake could sense the tension building. The Council of Lords has been discussing the succession, one of the nobles said. There are serious concerns about Princess Lyra's judgment. What concerns? Lyra asked. Your association with humans, another noble said. Your efforts to make peace with an inferior species. Your decision to bring this human to our homeworld. Jake felt like he was watching a trial. Princess Leia was being judged for trying to prevent a war, and he was being used as evidence against her. Jake Morrison is not evidence of poor judgment, Admiral Zethkar said suddenly. He is evidence of everything Princess Leia has been trying to tell us about humans. All eyes turned to the Admiral. Jake wasn't sure what he was planning, but he hoped it was something good. This human risked his life to save our princess, Zethkar continued. He walked into flames that would have killed any of us. He carried her to safety, asking for nothing in return. And when we told him she was royalty, what did he say? Zethkar looked around the room. He said she was still just a person. To him, her royal blood didn't matter. What mattered was that she needed help. Several Valorians nodded thoughtfully. Jake could see that Zethkar's words were having an effect. And now, Zethkar said, when he could have stayed safely in human space, he came here with her. He knew it was dangerous. He knew some of us see humans as enemies. But he came anyway, because Princess Lyra called upon him. He came because of the life debt, Korthvek said dismissively. No, Zethkar said. He came because it was the right thing to do. He came because humans don't abandon their friends even when it costs them everything. Jake saw Princess Lyra smile for the first time since they had arrived at the palace. Other Valorians were nodding now, and some were looking at Jake with something that might have been respect, but Korthvek wasn't finished. Pretty words, he said, but words don't win wars. When the humans turn on us, when they show their true nature, what then? Then we'll deal with it, Jake said. But we won't turn on you. That's not who we are. Prove it, Korthvek challenged. Jake looked at the general for a long moment. Then he walked to the center of the throne room and knelt down. Every Valorian in the room stared at him in shock. I, Jake Morrison, swear by my honor and my life that humanity will never attack the Valorian Empire without cause, Jake said in a clear, strong voice. We seek friendship, not conquest. We offer cooperation, not submission. And if anyone threatens Princess Leia or the peace between our peoples, they'll have to go through me first. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Zethkar began to clap. Other Valorians joined in until the entire throne room was filled with applause. Korthvek looked around at his supporters, and Jake could see the defeat in his eyes. The general had tried to use fear and hatred to gain power, but Jake had offered something better. He had offered hope. Princess Leia walked over to Jake and helped him to his feet. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. Just doing my job, Jake said with a smile. Later, after Emperor Lexmore had officially named Princess Leia as his heir and the succession crisis had ended, Jake found himself alone with her in the palace gardens. You saved my life twice, Lyra said. Once in the flames, and once in there. You saved mine too, Jake said. The life debt, remember? Lyra laughed. I think we can call the debt even. Now, they stood together in the garden, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human and Valorian ships were beginning to work together instead of preparing for war. What happens now? Jake asked. Now we build something new, Lyra said. A partnership between our species. A future where humans and Valorians stand together. Jake nodded. Sounds good to me. As they walked back toward the palace, Jake reflected on everything that had happened. He had rushed into flames to save a stranger, not knowing she was royalty, but in the end, it didn't matter who she was. What mattered was that she was a person who needed help. That was the human way. And maybe Jake thought it was going to change the galaxy for the better.